Contact, 9 o'clock.
Let's see if Long Boy Johnson here can fit in frame. Barely. Just barely. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, goons, trads, and tactical chads. My name is Valkyrie. And today we are not reviewing a rifle. Yes, we are not reviewing a rifle. Because we don't do reviews here. I don't do reviews here. We will be breaking down my one and only rifle. This is my one and only. My main squeeze. Right? This has been about 3 years in the making. I started building this rifle in the final quarter of 2020. And I gotta say, this thing fucks, man. We will go tip to butt, just so we can get all the accoutrements out of the way. And then when we do that, we will get into the minutia of this video. With all that being said, let's get into it. And my light just died. I love that for myself. Starting from the tip, this is actually my newest addition. I have a JP Enterprises 3-prong flash hider. Why didn't I go with a war comp? Because they're noisy as fuck. Why do you think we try to muffle our stocks? Why do you think we put suppressors on here? Right? I'm trying to make the thing quiet. And that loud ping, ping, ping. Every single goddamn time I try to, like, you know, ride the bolt or whatever, or every time I shoot it, I was not okay with that. It is some of the most obnoxious shit ever. So, I like the JP. It's about 2.6 something odd inches. I will put a little pop-up somewhere in there. If you have a 13.7-inch barrel, like I do, this will bring your overall barrel length to 16 inches. Which is nice because fuckers like you, get out of here! Like to make us criminals for having guns that are just slightly short of 16 inches because they said so. And I'm not about that, but unfortunately, because I'm putting this on YouTube, I have to make sure that all of my bases are covered. So, moving on. It's a great flash hider, by the way. Works really well. Does what it does supposed to. Thanks, ADHD. It does what it's supposed to do, just like the birdcage. Next thing on the list, and just happens to be that. The light. This is a Cloud Defensive Rain. It is so goddamn bright. I love this thing so much. It is just feckin' ridiculous. That is the Gen 1 model. It's a tank. I love it. I actually haven't had to charge the batteries since I got it. I have 2 of these, actually. So, I do have a spare battery for it, which is kind of nice. But they both work really well. The other one is for a 16-inch build, but that's beside the point. Great light. Like I said, bright as a radioactive piss. And, you know, I highly recommend it. It's like $300, but it comes with everything. And I am running the pressure pad because the pressure pad is proprietary. But for people who don't like proprietary pressure pads, this does have a bit of redundancy because you do have an integrated push cap right there, little clicky cap, if this does happen to go out. So there is that redundancy. Why am I running it on this side? Well, because I have been. Next up, the rail. This is an Aero Precision enhanced lightweight rail, I think. This is like the Gen 2 model. Works really well. It has a quad railie vibes, which I like. It's a little bit on the chunkier side, but I think it fits the proportions of the rifle really well. Remember, when building out a rifle, always gotta make sure it looks cool too, right? And this makes this gun look just so sick. Next up, I've already brought this up a few times at this point. This is a 13.7 inch ballistic advantage barrel. It's accurate. It's a very accurate barrel. I'm getting about just barely under, if not an MOA, even out to like 200 yards. I'm still getting really fucking tight groupings. That also doesn't really help for the fact that I do run a 36 yard zero. If you have any questions about 36 yard zeros, I highly recommend sourcing the Vigilance Elite video. By far one of the most informative videos, and that also happens to be the video that converted me to 36 yards. Moving more towards display, we're not going to get to the optic just yet. This is, again, I actually think I brought this up, but this is more or less a Frankenstein build. I have tuned this to my liking based off of the rifle that I bought this out as it was originally, which was, and I guess this, literally everything here besides the grip and this, the stock. Like the stock and the grip, and the charging handle, obviously. But the buffer, upper, lower, trigger package, all of the just small switches and shit, and the bolt carrier group is all OEM. Originally was an Adams Arms Voodoo Witch Doctor, I think. Yeah, that sounds right. Cost me about $800 for the entire rifle, and I liked it. It was a 16-inch gun. The mag release was a little stiff in the beginning. I had a lot of issues getting it to like release. It would stick in there, and then over time it kind of just broke in, and now it works really well. Again, everything here is mil spec, stock, OEM to the original rifle, except this, that, and all of this. So the heart, the chest, the trunk of this body is all Adams Arms. KT Plus, this has a little hidey hole in it, but it's also rubberized. I like rubberized grips because I get abnormally sweaty hands, and I've noticed that rubberized surfaces help a lot with that. And then this is also a mil-spec trigger. We'll actually ghost these together really quickly here. Oh yeah, and by the way, I am rocking the pink pajamas today. They're not the exact pink pajamas, but these are another pair of pink pajamas that I love. So for the sake of this video, pink pajamas. Hell yeah. Told you I'd do it at some point. So this rifle, this trigger, not the rifle, but yes, the trigger. Make sure this is clear all the way. There we go. This trigger is actually okay. I will say it's a really nice trigger, but you'll see what I mean when I say it's okay. There you go. That's all I have to say. It's a little gritty. You can pull back and there's the wall, like that first stage sort of thing. But it is about 4.5 pounds. It's a pretty heavy trigger. It's just a mil-spec combat trigger. But what I will say is... Oh, duh. There you go. That break is really nice for a mil-spec trigger. And then, here's that. Oh, it's a fat reset. I fucking love it. I'll do that one more time. There's that wall. Weight. It's just literally like a small wall of weight. There's no real pronounced wall, but it's definitely something. And then that reset is just, it wants to send your finger forward. Oh, It's a nice trigger. Like I said, yes, on the gritty side, but I will be polishing that down. Otherwise, I like this trigger a lot. I do not have the money to invest in a Geisley, which is actually just a Schmidt. I have had one trigger in the past. It was an ALG trigger. Is there ACT trigger? ALG something. It was a single stage trigger. But honestly, I almost like this trigger more. I like this trigger a lot more. Just for the extra weight there, just for safety stuff. Charging handle. I'm just like anyone else. I like the Radiant Raptors. They're big, they're nice, they're durable. They allow me to really get onto this thing. Not the Gasbuster version though. This is the standard. Great charging handle. Up top. Actually, no. No. We'll get into this here in a second. You know what stock this is. I'm not going to name it because my autism is making me blank right now. But this right here, this is actually one of my more favorite add-ons. This is a GPRS CR Valkyrie. Kind of dope. I like the name a lot. Say what you will about GPRS, but they're seals, they're stubborn, so it's whatever. And yeah, they make some cool stuff, especially this. I did have to super glue it a little bit because my wife did try to pry this off their bare hands, and then that's kind of what was left. Nothing a little super glue couldn't do. So, yeah, don't really care about that. And then I do have a Magpul, the MS1, I think. I can never remember what this is. I always have to reference my own shit. Yeah, this is the MS1, and then I literally just have this retained on this little thing right there. I'll show you how I do it. It's probably not the most optimal way, but I do not have the money to be spending on excess bullshit. So I will literally make all of my stuff at home if I have to. But I literally just like stuff that in there. Then do that. I have to do it that way because this massive ass slider likes to get in the way if I do it any other way. So that way I can literally just, from wherever, like that, and it's out. It does loosen up over time a little bit, but I'm not too terribly concerned about that because this rifle really doesn't move all that much, except when it's moving all the time. So technically I lied. And then I do have a QD point up there, and then the stock right here. I do plan on moving this up front just to get that full length stuff for more patrol-y related activities. There we go. I was going to say occupations, and I don't know why. So. And then this bolt carrier group, like I said, this entire rifle from here, basically upper and lower receivers, is original to the Adams Arms rifle that it once was. So, easy enough to say that this is an Adams Arms bolt carrier group. I've put about 1,500 rounds somewhere in there. And I did have, in the very beginning, a few stoppages, but I'm going to relate that to either a break-in period thing or ammo. At the time, I was running PMC Bronze, and I don't know if PMC Bronze just has primer issues, but I was having a lot of late primer strikes, or just rounds that didn't want to go off. So, yeah, kind of shitty. But it was after about 500 rounds that I stopped noticing that. I've also cycled out that ammo since, ever since. I have been running the good old, where's that magazine I just tossed? Oh, here's the one that usually sits in the gun. I have been running the green tips. I think they're also PMC, but yeah, just the good old M855. Green tip. Good stuff. Steel core penetrator. You know. And then the optic. A little bit of backstory about this optic, actually. when I was purchasing the rifle and all these stuff to put on it, I wanted an LPVO. Like, that's exactly what I knew what I wanted. I like having the 1X, and I like having that extended magnification. And I was originally going to pick up a Vortex 1 of 4. It's like that crossfire thing. For like $200. But while I was searching, I did notice this guy. This is a Firefield, I think it's the Firefield Strike Fire. I don't know. I'll pop it up somewhere in here, but this is a 1-to-6 second focal plane LPVO, marketed for competition. Ha 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 ha. That is going to be a relevant piece of information here in a second. This is a competition LPVO, and it is very broken at the moment, actually. How did it break exactly? After 3 years of use and pretty reliable consistency, held 0 for the most part. I could imagine there was a small shift here and there, but not enough for me to notice. Where I pointed this thing, it shot and it hit for the most part. But as you may know, LPVOs usually end up getting fried when people like to do these crazy shoulder height drop tests. And I did not actually drop this from shoulder height at all, ever. I babied my optics, which is probably not a good idea, but I really don't like breaking optics, and this is the first time and only time I've really broken an optic, because this is like the one optic I've had for the longest period of time for that potential to actually arise. So here we are. And how's it broken exactly? I'll pop up a little bit of footage here right about now. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. That's broken, right? Yeah, really broken. And how did that break exactly? Well, because I didn't do shoulder drop tests. I was not aware that a drop from this height broke it. Happened on about 3 different occasions last month. Last fucking month. I'm not kidding you. This is a very bad month for that. That was a very bad month for this optic. You can even hear it. What I am assuming is after it fell so many times, if you know how optics work, some of that glass on the inside kind of just fell apart inside the tube, and now it's just so useless. I did send off my Holosun. It was at the HS403 Bravo, I think is what it was, that really budget red dot. I had that actually as an offset for this for the first 6 months of this rifle's life, and then I did run that red dot on its own. While I liked it, in my personal opinion, if you have a fighting rifle of any kind that has a barrel length any longer than 11.5, you need magnification. In other words, magnification is mandatory. There are probably a couple of arguments for that, but because of the way the battlefield has changed these days, and I understand that if you're just a person who wants a home defense gun, then, that's completely up to you. But at the exact same time, magnification, in my opinion, is absolutely necessary, because say someone wanders onto your property, you have no idea who they are, and they're obviously acting like a putz, and you decide to pop them from 50 yards from your door, and you don't realize that they're not even armed, or whatever situation it is. That has its own legalities and shit. But in my opinion, if you want to maybe prevent having to shoot someone the moment that you pull that rifle and make commands or whatever, magnification is going to be your best friend. Because PID. PID, PID, PID! Yes. Now, with that being said, why do I like 13.7? Why this? Why not 10.5 like everyone is building? And why not, just why 13.7? 13.7 is the middle child of all of the barrel lengths, it seems. The Marines love the 14.5. You love the 14.5. Grand Thumb loves the 14.5. A lot of you also really like 16-inch guns. 18-inch guns are actually becoming rad, which I find awesome. And then there's 12.5, which is innately a bastard sword. Thanks, Hopple for that term. And then 11.5 is interesting. I've actually thought a little bit about getting into 11.5 guns. And then you have 10.5/10.3, which I think outside of SOCOM use, they are absolutely fucking impractical outside of home defense. But even then, if you want a home defense gun, that short, at that point, you might as well be getting into what I call hush guns. 300 blackout guns that you can suppress really well. 300 blackout as a fighting cartridge, I think makes a lot of sense as a potential replacement or substitute, a more effective substitute than a 10.3. 10.3, if you've heard the math, it's like terminal velocity is like 45 fucking yards. But then you'll see these tier 1 units going out with 10.3s and doing Overwatch shit from a line of dudes 300 yards away from the target site. I don't know what that's all about, but apparently you can do it. You're basically just turning people into Swiss cheese rather than, yielding a significant amount of terminal velocity, which the 5.56 cartridge is kind of dependent upon. So I think it's a dumb idea, personally. This may seem like a very hot topic or hot take, whatever. It is, in my opinion, that 5.56 should not be used in anything shorter than 10.5 because it's absolutely impractical at that point. 10.3 is cutting it, but even then, 11.5 you're still getting an inch more. But that length, 1 whole inch, with a gun already that short, makes no sense because you're already getting a decent amount of velocity gain just from that 1 inch or point something inches or 1 point something inches. I really don't know. And 300 blackout, you can do shit out to 400 yards more effectively than you can with the 10.3. So, but that's that's a conversation for 10.3s and 300 blackout. We're talking 13.7. I like 13.7 because it gives me something short enough where I can do almost anything that would involve me being indoors, which I really fucking hope I never have to do because at that point I am seriously fucked. Have you actually done PvP airsoft? I bet you haven't. Just kidding. But it gives me something short enough where I can do things indoors effectively, but I can also take this outside and I can shoot out to 500 yards very effectively. Something, though, that I haven't done, which is my sole intent for a follow-up video on this. This is kind of a primer for the more scientific research about 13.7. But I have not chronoed this rifle, unfortunately, but from my understanding, based on seeing a couple of different charts from the internet, specifically talking about like 13.9, 13 even, I don't know what that 0.2 inches is going to do necessarily, but, and then also anecdotal evidence from just all of the toxic forums that we all love and hate to be on. 13.7 is shooting, depending on the ammunition, of course, is touching at about 2,700 feet per second, somewhere in there. This chart that I'm going to reference right now, I think, if I'm remembering it in real time, is citing 2,900 feet per second, which is insane. Obscene, that's funny. 2,900 feet per second is insane for that kind of a length of barrel. Not only that, but you can make a 13.7 legal by putting in welding your muzzle device if it's, you know, like a 2.5 inch, 2 3/4 inch muzzle device, which again this is. It's a very multi-use length. 13.7 for me is like the Goldilocks length. It's not too comfy, but it's not too stiff. It's just right. You know, that porridge ain't too hot, but it ain't too cold. It's just right. Not only that, but 13.7 is also very easy to suppress. I would love to direct thread this, but that's obviously not happening. Fuck you, ATF. But it is significantly easier to suppress than like a 12.5, where you're getting a fuck ton of gas issues, and then you resort to buying Sage Dynamics very specialized 12.5 barrel, or you're going 11.5, and then at that point you're losing muzzle velocity. This becomes a compact gun more than an intermediate gun. Again, this is an intermediate length gun meant for intermediate distances. This is not a DMR gun, but this could also technically be a CQB rifle, because it is short enough to do that. Most of my dry fire is spent inside of my own home. Most of my dry fire includes pine corners and pushing through thresholds and shit. So I can say, just from my experience, again, I am just a dirty civilian. I am not an operator. I have neither done that or been there. So that's just my application, and just from my experience, it's, like I said, chopping off like that much extra length goes a long way, especially if you've already got a muzzle device this long. You're not compromising much either still, because if you put a muzzle device of this length on an already 16-inch gun, you're now going from like here to like here. Now you pretty much are running an 18-inch barrel. It's nice having a barrel that comes to 16 inches when it's already still short, rather than having a 16-inch that then surpasses that. It's really weird. I can't extrapolate it completely without confusing people, but that offset length does actually make a large difference. So, what would I use this for? Well, I would use this for a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I use this for everything, because this is my only rifle. So, my favorite things to use this for are actually more patrol-related operations. And anything that really involves intermediate range, right? I know that this might seem like a pointless repetition that I'm trying to get at here, but that's kind of the point. We focus so much on having something either super short, but then we compromise that rifle's capability to do a wider range of tasks by neutering it to that long, or however long you neuter it to. But then you also struggle with, say you're one of those people that just bought your first 16-inch, 18-inch, or hell, you're a boss and you bought an M16 and those 20-inch fucking beasts that at that point your body armor is obsolete. That's unwieldy. That's very, very unwieldy. It's unwieldy. It's very, very unwieldy. Let me correct myself there. This is just a very wieldy package, especially with the hand stop. I have enough real estate to do anything when it comes to attachments, and I can, if we're going back to more indoor use applications, this actually works as a pretty good gauge about how far I need to stay away from a door, because I have a lot of furniture in here. I have to negotiate obstacles, and a lot of guys out there do not understand depth. And if you don't understand depth, you're going to over penetrate and shit, and then you know where I'm getting into. So, this for me is a multi-use gun. I will use this literally for everything. If I could choose one rifle, this would be it. Why? It's short enough to put in a truck, especially whenever I decide to get a folding adapter for this. It's not going to make it even smaller. The only big downside to this is not a backpack gun necessarily. I could strip this and stuff it into one of my larger backpacks that I do have. However, due to the excess length that I now have with the flash hider, putting this in a backpack is going to be very difficult. So if you're looking for a backpack gun, 13.7, just a little bit on the longer side. But you can do it. You technically can do it if you had a big enough backpack. But then again, do you really want to be carrying a massive backpack everywhere? Not really. Not only that, but from the light and the optic itself, it's not heavy. I don't know. I haven't weighed this rifle, but I can tell you that it's got a couple ounces on it. This red dot, or this LPVO, is at about 16, 17 ounces, somewhere in there. And then I really don't know how much this fucking brick is, but it's got a decent amount of weight to it. But what I like about that weight, especially with the barrel length, and I think this is a mid-length gas system, if I'm not mistaken. I honestly don't really know. I don't remember what the guy said when he was putting this together for me. It's a very easily controllable gun. This is probably, and I know I'm probably, because this is my rifle, I am automatically biased. I will disclose that. Because this is my rifle, I am biased. But this is by far one of the softest shooting guns that I have ever shot. And I've shot a few guns at this point. I haven't owned a lot of guns, but I've shot a lot of guns. And I will tell you, I still prefer my rifle over anything else. I may seem conceited in the fact that I think my rifle is, you know, the jack of all trades, but that's kind of what I'm attempting when it comes to my operation style. I really like being able to flex into as many places as possible. I could do Overwatch coverage with this rifle, absolutely. I can be thrown into a truck with a couple of dudes and go to work. This can clear a house. This can do a lot of cool stuff. So, now, if you want to go the route of 13.7, you have a couple of different ways you can actually approach this. Specifically when it comes to glass, I personally will recommend an LPVO to absolutely anyone, because it's the ultimate compromise. Truly, you get a 1X, but then you also get either a 4 if you're still living in 2010, 6, 8, or 10. I really wanted a 10. I really want a 10X, but a lot of 10Xs out there are lacking in a couple of places, or they're super expensive. I am looking at replacing this with the Premier Arms ACSS Nova. Thanks, Bassfax, for converting me. It's a really nice optic. But yeah, I will recommend an LPVO to absolutely anybody. Yeah, anybody. But you can also go the route of a red dot magnifier. I personally don't like magnifiers. I actually absolutely hate them for 2 reasons. One, they cost about the price of a cheapo PVO, like the Premier Arms and ACSS Nova. Or even this was like $180, and it still gave me like 3 years of service. Again, it was a competition optic, so let's not go there. But yeah, most magnifiers cost about the price of either a decent red dot or, you know, a cheaper LPVO. So, one, there's a cost problem there. Number 2, Red dots have an abysmal field of view. I hate them. I hate the eye relief. Like it might just be my eyes. I do have very shitty vision. But I'm at the very least right-handed, so I'm not completely disabled. But I have very horrible eyesight. Being indigenous, yeah, that kind of sucks. But I have to get so goddamn close to that, I'm pretty much sucked up on it like I would an ACOG. Now, yeah, I'm complaining about the eye relief, but it's also not an ACOG. And ACOGs do have their eye relief problems, but then again, it's an ACOG! So there's no point in having something with such shitty eye relief. And not only that, glass transmission, because the only thing a magnifier really excels with is an EOTech, because an EOTech pretty much has like one pane of fucking glass. It's pretty much a giant red dot for a handgun. But you get any other red dot out there, like an MSR, or the HS403 Bravo, or, I don't know, I think it's the Sig Romeo 7. It looks like a giant fucking Aimpoint Pro on steroids, but it's also, like, not even half the price. You've got 4 panes of glass, you got 2 here, and you got 2 here. That causes issues. So I don't really like magnifiers for that reason. For those reasons alone. They're expensive. Eye relief is generally abysmal, and light transmission is generally abysmal. Unless you're using an EOTech. And then if you do end up using an EOTech, pretty much all magnifiers work the exact same way. You can either spend the $700 on a G45, or you could spend $300 on a Holosun one. It really doesn't matter. They're all doing the exact same thing. So, for me personally, if you like having that red dot, the red dot, then absolutely get a magnifier if you want that extra magnification. But you can also get an LPVO that has a really good 1x, like the Primary Arms ACSS Nova, and get a 1-6 that does so much more, right? Like, you can use the 2x, you can use the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 6. I have found myself quite often on the 4x on this LPVO. And I've also been at 6x. I've been through the entire range. Having that entire range at your disposal just pays dividends to your capability as a rifleman. And it's kind of the philosophy that I go into this, is we as prepared civilians who train to be competent shooters, we need to focus on that sentiment of being a rifleman, that Marine sentiment of being a rifleman. I've had a lot of Marine friends, so I guess I'm more naturally inclined to, preach the same philosophy. But again, it just makes sense a little bit more to me. Wyatt Earp even has a great quote on that. Something about the difference between, or not really the difference, the relevance between speed and accuracy. Basically what he had said, and I'll actually quote him here, but pretty much what the guy is saying is, when everything fucking counts, accuracy matters. Which is why my standard is usually a fist-size reduced target at 10 yards. You need to be able to complete that multiple times. Well within 3 seconds. If you can bill drill that much at 10 yards and keep that group tight, you're fucking great. You're doing amazing. That's my level of standard, though. I have very high standards for myself. Very high accuracy standards. Because accuracy, at the end of the day, kind of does matter. Yes, speed and distance, how far are you, what's the reaction time of the target, blah, blah, blah. You can build speed innately. Accuracy matters a little bit more. At least in my opinion, the entire internet can eat me alive for that. I will stand by that testament. Now, with all that really being said, I like 13.7s a lot. I don't see a lot of people talking about them. But as like the only rifle that I have owned, yes, I will be biased towards it. However, I think it does have a good amount of application. And a lot of people might be turned off by the fact that you have to pin and weld it. But just kidding. I'm not going to try to tell you guys what to do on the internet when it comes to NFA items. But I strongly suggest just doing it. Because there's enough going on here where you'll generally find that the 14.5 kind of becomes obsolete. The 16-inch, not really, because there is a genuine muzzle velocity difference there, and maybe yes, so from 14.5. But what you get with a barrel length of this length is a lot more than I think a lot of people are willing to consider. So, hopefully, I would love to see a little bit more 13.7-inch out there. But as it stands right now, I will choose a 13.7 over a 16-inch every single day. And if I wanted a 16-inch, I'd get an 18-inch. Yeah, kind of convoluted, but I'm just autistic. All right. With that being said, it's a ranty video. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to be collecting a lot more data when it comes to this in the future, specifically my very particular muzzle velocity. I will be replacing the optic. I'll probably be running that little holosun red dot when it decides to come back. You know, those battery trays are not the greatest, so I had it replaced for that reason. But I will be switching to that, and I will follow up with y'all based on what I find with it. But aside from that, do all that regular, awesome, amazing stuff. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Shoot straight. Sling lead. Fuck the ATF. And I'll be seeing you guys next time.